This is Jeremy Phillips of Canute Consulting, and welcome to Sales Stories.
Hi, my name is Sasha Dixon, and I am a medical representative. So I work on the road, right? And basically, what I do is I visit doctors and pharmacies, and I detail the doctors about, various medications that are out on the market. Some they're already familiar with, and some would actually be new. Now, my sales story today is about keeping it professional regardless. So I remember I went to see a doctor one time, and I have my detail bag, which is like a pulley bag that you normally travel with, right? So I have my detail bag with all my samples of the medication. Everything is in there. And when you go to the doctor's office, the doctor is around their table, and then they have a chair at the side of the table, which is where the patients would sit, the medical reps would sit. So, I take my seat, and I was very fresh in the MedRep game at the time. I had probably only been on the road maybe about a year in, right? So, went to see this doctor. It was a male, and I sat down in the chair, and of course, good morning, doc, etc., etc., etc. And I'm talking about the product. I'm reminding him about the various things, that the product entails. And he's sitting there, and he's looking at me, and he's, like he's, you're listening, right? So he then pulls his chair closer, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, all right. So I'm still talking, and then he pulls his chair closer. Now, that day I wore pants. Very good. Which I was told by my manager at the time that as a female, when you're out there on the road, I prefer you to be out there in pants as opposed to a skirt or a dress. And this is for safety, of course, because he doesn't want to have a situation. Because let's admit it, sometimes a lot of these doctors tend to, but that was back then. I haven't had any of those experiences personally. But so I'm talking to this man, and he's pulling his chair closer and closer to me. And he got so close to the point where his knees are touching my knees. And I sit back, and I'm still talking. And then he comes closer, where at this point, it's his leg, my leg, his leg, my leg. I had on pants that day, which is a very good thing. I said, you know what? I don't want to leave this office on a bad note. I came here to do my job. And I continued the detail, and I reached for the samples, and instead of my normal, which is just to reach down in my bag, take up my samples and put it on the table, I took up the big bag, and I put that big bag on my lap, right? Which was a pretty big barricade between himself and myself, because this bag is big. If you know those travel pulley bags, which is like a carry-on, and you have this stick that you pull up and roll it, and it could expand out the more things you put in there. Yes, that big hefty bag filled with samples and papers and everything, I put in my lap to bridge the space between this doctor and myself. And I completed my detail, and I said, thank you very much for seeing me. I will follow up with you in a few weeks with regarding the products for any feedbacks that you might have. And I got up and left. And normally now we see our doctors within 4-week cycles. It took me about 2 months before I went back to see that man. And then when I went back to see him, it was a similar situation. He started having conversations about my earrings, my piercings. I didn't have my nose pierced at the time, but I did have a lot of ear piercings at the time. Now I only wear one, but I had a few. And he goes on to say, you know, if there's ever a time that you would like to have, any intimate piercings, you should have it done by a professional, and I can do that for you. This is in the middle of a detail to him. And I said, no, thanks, I'm good. I have enough ear piercings at this time. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And I left. And I never visited that doctor again. I explained to my manager, I was like, I'm not seeing this man because XYZ. He made covert comments and conversations. I'm not doing it. And these are the things that sometimes women have to deal with in the field, especially in a sales job, because men will try. They're going to shoot their shot. Sometimes they score, sometimes they don't. But we have to be safe on the road, and we have to keep it professional all the time. Needless to say, he was still writing our products. He saw other reps. A male took over the area, and it was all gravy.